Mercury Rev are an American band that were formed in 1989 at the University of Buffalo. Initially, they were a noise slash psychedelia slash drone band, and they had at least one member in common at some point with the Flaming Lips. After two albums which were critically well received but didn't do very well commercially, vocalist Baker left, and then they started to transition towards more mainstream and got more success as a result. They've had quite a few past members, but the very first two members, Jonathan Donahue and a guy calling himself Grasshopper, are still there, and they have released 12 studio albums so far. Hi, my name's Dan. So this is the debut album for Mercury Rev, and I've heard of them, and I have had occasional tracks on magazine compilations. It used to be a thing where you'd buy a music magazine and there'd be a CD on the cover and it'd have a compilation of tracks on it. But I don't particularly remember any of the songs from that. I remember the name, but not actually the music. And this is, I'm pretty sure, my first listen to this album then. So there was something that threw me off about the album name. You can read it. And it says, "Yerself is steam," and I kept wondering about what is this? What does this mean? And is yourself meant to be some kind of, Irish accent or something going in there? And then I read about it, and it's a wording spelling of the phrase "your self-esteem," as in how much you think of yourself, which I didn't get just from reading the name because I never actually vocalized it in my head. Okay, so I think that's a relatively interesting name. It's a phrase that's used in the first track, which is called "Chasing a Bee." So I would describe this as being, yeah, psychedelic rock, definitely kind of in somewhere in the neo psychedelia area, but with definite elements of noise that are added. Some of those noises sound like they can be, I have no idea, industrial noises, but some of them basically are obviously being made with a guitar, just done in a very non-musical and very noisy way. Um, Also, it's got kind of a drony feel at times. There's a slow approach to it, and things tend to kind of just take the time and trundle on and build up and come down again, etc. So uh, that also kind of emphasizes the thought of psychedelia. They've also used effects like phases and wahs, which emphasize that feeling as well, as does the use of a toy flute at one point. But I think it's that kind of drony element, which is where people have compared this to shoegaze stuff. The playing is not bad. It's deliberately undisciplined, so timing is fairly loose. The togetherness of who's on, are they on the same chord at the same time is also somewhat loose. So it has a chaotic feel to it, especially when you then start adding in noise elements as well. The track Blue and Black is more empty and spacey, and it's got a bit of more threatening feel to it. Very Sleepy Rivers, which is the last track apart from a hidden track, is kind of, I felt, full on space rock. It just really builds and has this kind of very expansive feel to it. So it's more like a continuum than the others. The singing or the vocals are varied. There's some of it is spoken, quite an amount. I wasn't sure if there were actually two different people, and there are two people who are credited with vocals on this album, Baker and the other guy whose name has now just slipped my mind. And at times it reminded me of people like Lou Reed, but it's very kind of dark, low voice. And sometimes reminded me of kind of dark 80s British electropop. I didn't pick up much on the lyrics, actually. Most of the time, they're quite hard to hear. So much for description. I guess the question is, did I like it? And I've got mixed feelings, I think. So it's unusual, and quite a bit of the unusuality is in unusuality. I've just invented a word. Is in the way that I like. but actually I felt at times it was maybe a bit too chaotic. I did wonder if if that element of chaos was taken away, what would be left, and would there be other qualities that I would like in it? And I wasn't sure, so it felt a bit like the chaos was the unique selling point, and maybe it was masking the lack of other qualities. I might be being controversial saying that. I liked Very Sleepy Rivers the best, which is maybe it's because it feels more familiar to me because it kind of reminded me of some krautrock stuff. I was at least impressed, I think, with Syringe Mouth, which I found was too aggressive in its noisiness. On balance, I didn't mind it. I my first listen, I wasn't feeling great when I was listening to it, and I found it a bit challenging to actually listen to on that day. And I think, on balance, I wouldn't seek it out, but I didn't really mind it, and I found it, mildly interesting. So that's what I think. As always, at this point, I want to invite you to tell me what you think. So please do leave a comment in the comments box. That's it from me for now.